Hey, I'm Julie Rose. Welcome to Love What You Love. I'm an author, creator, and enthusiast, and I've always been fascinated by the things that people are super into because they're always a unique expression of curiosity and joy and wonder. So every week, I'll introduce you to another fascinating human who's into really interesting stuff. Welcome back, or welcome. This podcast exists to give you a bit of a rest and a bit of a respite, to add a little light to the world. Speaking of adding some light to the world, let's get right to this week's guests. The Fantastic Plastics are a neo-new wave duo who mix new wave, synth punk, and electro elements with sci-fi inspired lyricism, and a hell of a lot of fun and energy in their twice-weekly live stream performances on Twitch. I had a great time talking with Miranda and Tyson back in May about touring, streaming on Twitch, playing the theremin, connecting with an audience over the internet, and so much more. So find out why the Fantastic Plastics love new wave music, and why you might learn to love it too. All right, Tyson and Miranda Plastic, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having us.
Greetings, citizen.
I am super excited to talk to you guys. I think I revealed to you before we started talking that I'm a little bit of a fangirl here. My husband introduced me to your stream, and it's total flashback for us, but I'm really fascinated to know how you guys got into doing 80s and 90s new wave covers. Like, where did that start?
Well, I was raised on a commune, and it was founded in the mid 90s. And similar to the way, the Amish sort of stopped time in 1860, this commune stopped time in 1996. And so to us, that was the latest music, and that that's all we knew.
And we're really into synthesizers and that kind of sound. So I think that it really peaked in the 80s and kind of got brought back a little bit in the 90s. So,
and one of us is telling a lie.
Guess which one?
I love it. So why are you into synthesizers? And were you always musicians, or how did you get into music?
For me, I started in high school. I was really inspired. I think it had to be the first time I heard Smells Like Teen Spirit. Someone played it for me, and I was like, holy cow. And, I'm like, I think I could do this. And so that kind of inspired me. So I've been, a wannabe musician basically my entire adult life, and in a bunch of different bands and writing music and stuff. And then I met Miranda through a friend, and she actually helped for many years with my other bands. She created costumes and did choreography and was a backup dancer in another project.
And then I guess fast forward to when we got together as a couple, Tyson moved to New York, where I was living in New York City, and he missed, playing gigs and stuff because he had been in bands since he was a teenager. And so I kind of learned the parts of another band member that was in this band before me. Sorry, I'm trying to explain this. But I was in band like in junior high. I played the clarinet and I've always been into music, and just like I would have little toy keyboards and things to play around with as a kid, but I never took piano lessons or anything formal. So I basically, Tyson kind of taught me some parts, and then I started learning music by ear, and that's still what I'm doing now. I don't really read music or anything, but yeah, I guess just kind of learning on the fly.
I was just say the synthesizer is just a really cool sound, like the synth part in Just What I Needed by the Cars, or
so iconic. Yeah, everyone knows. Like, people sing along to the synth part almost more than the words.
Yeah. And so I don't know. I always found that more fascinating. I always thought the guitars kind of sounded like white noise, and they were necessary to the music, but the synthesizers to me were always the coolest sounding things in any
sounds
song.
So futuristic too, and we're both really drawn to that.
Right. And so is that what kind of drives the kind of covers that you do? Because, you covered Devo and Berlin and, very kind of iconic synth pop bands from the 80s. Have you ever thought of like covering other kinds of new wave bands like New Order or, groups like that?
It's kind of funny because, obviously for our stream, because we're gearing it towards new wave, we cover a lot of the new wave classics. But I think we find it more interesting when we can take a song that wasn't a new wave song and try to put some kind of new wave spin on it. And it's funny you mentioned New Order because we do a cover of Lump by the Presidents of the United States. And in my mind, when we were like composing the arrangement, we were trying to think like, well, if New Order had written Lump, how might that sound?
Yeah. You're not the only one. When we're on Twitch, that's probably the next thing we're going to talk about. But people often ask us to start covering certain other. They like once they hear us playing covers, they like the style we're doing of covers. Then they're like, "Oh, can you guys play New Order? Can you do B-52s? Right. Can you do this and that?"
Yeah. So let's talk about Twitch. So I can't say that most of the people who are listening to this podcast are going to know what Twitch even is. So maybe you could talk about like what Twitch is, why you're streaming on it. What does that mean to stream on Twitch?
I'll just give you a warning that I'm ridiculously passionate about this.
Good.
And
That's why
I have been evangelizing anyone that will like sit and listen to me talk about this. So the first thing I would try to clear up for anyone is that, Twitch sort of has this reputation of being a place where kids go to watch other kids play video games. And while the numbers that they have, those make up the most of the numbers, that is just such a small part of what Twitch is. Twitch has music streamers like ourselves. They also have makers, people that are building technology and building gadgets on there. They also have like botness. Sometimes there's a guy on there that's a New York City bike messenger, and you can watch him do his route all day long. Cool thing about it, and what I think is coming really soon, is once people fully become aware of this, is it's like a Pandora's box. Once people start watching Twitch and they realize that they can interact and become part of the media that they're consuming, it makes everything else seem so basic. So like, it's almost weird to now go back and watch Netflix or Hulu and binge watch something because you're like, well, I want to talk about this. It's such a passive experience. Yeah.
So just for people who have never been on Twitch. So like YouTube, you go and watch a video, you stay out of the comments section because that's a cesspool. So exactly. You just don't do that. So the difference, so you can do like live streams on YouTube, but it's not, the level of interactivity isn't the same. So Twitch is geared to be live streaming, and with kind of an audience that is interacting with each other and with you in chat during the stream. Is that right?
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
A big part of it are the emotes. There's a special, we could go into a long conversation about that, but it's not just the conversation too, but there's little emojis and different things that go, it's a whole language.
Yeah. And each streamer, the longer that they're on Twitch, the more like custom emote slots they can unlock. So you basically build a library of your own custom emotes for your channel. But then when you subscribe to other channels, you get those emotes and they take on a lexicon. They have meaning. And as a streamer, we're watching and we can see those emotes, and this weird hypnosis happens where that sort of translates into people cheering in front of us, or, it's.
Yeah, it takes us out of being in our basement looking at a monitor and just like yelling into a microphone. So
that's what I was going to ask you. So you guys stream from your house, and you've got a really unique setup. I mean, besides music and your performance, it's super compelling to like be immersed in this kind of early 80s aesthetic. So can you talk to me a little bit about how you stream and kind of how you set up what people are seeing on their screens?
We basically decided to try to replicate our live performance as much as possible on Twitch. So if you notice, we have like a projector in the background that like kind of covers the wall and ceiling, and that's just, a projector on the floor. And that kind of represents what we did live. But then we've tried to evolve it for the stream. And lately, one of the things we've been doing is wearing these uniforms that we can chroma key. So we have the projection in the background with these kind of like 80s graphics that our collaborator Chicken Burger Disco made. But then on top of it, we have clothes that also are projection mapped. So green screen clothes. Yeah. So we kind of have this Max Headroom thing going on at the same time, very.
And the
very
graphics
80s.
Are very reminiscent of 80s kind of the Memphis period. Or whatever.
The Memphis art movement. And then, then we're standing next to each other and interacting with each other and playing and singing. And visually, we're just trying to create the live performance as much as possible.
And you guys have performed at South by Southwest and some other large events, as well as just as playing local gigs, right?
Yeah. We toured in 2017. We were on the Vans Warped Tour. And so we toured coast to coast on that for the summer of 2017. And when we lived in New York, we toured up and down the East Coast quite a bit with different bands. And so we were a road band forever. And we were really reluctant to get on Twitch. Our friends and our manager were trying to get us on there 2 years before we ever got on the platform. And now that we're fully immersed in it, we really don't want to tour ever again.
Once in a while, if it's really, really something we don't want to miss. But yeah, just kind of like the grind of trying to tour little local venues and stuff I don't know if that's going to be a thing anymore for us.
Well, yeah. It's got to be a real lifesaver for you too now that you couldn't even do gigs.
Yeah, how fortunate were we to have been on here a year before it started. So we're just now like a year into being on Twitch. We're just really fully established on there because we kind of had a slow start, but for the last 6 months, we've really, been trying to stream 2 or 3 nights a week and 3 or 4 hours at a time. And so, yeah, we're really fortunate because a bunch of our friends are trying to get on Twitch, or Facebook stream. They're trying to get into streaming for the first time, and they don't fully appreciate that it's not something that happens overnight.
Yeah, there's so much technology and things behind the scenes that need to work in order to get the sound right and the right kind of camera and at least people can see you and hear you well. Really, that's the key.
Yeah. And you're building a community, and that's the part that takes the time. I mean, once you figure out the technology, you've got to build a community, and it takes a while. It's not just that you can't just get on Twitch and stream and then be done for the day. Like, we actively watch and support other streamers every day of the week, for hours a day. Like, I have it on in the background all day long while I work as my background music. So, it's like a real music scene in that aspect. Like, if you're in a local music scene and you just go, the only time you go to shows or when you play and you never support anyone else, you're never going to have a fan base in your local scene. And it's the same thing on Twitch. You've got to
be a part of the community.
Yeah, you've got to support it. And it's great. We found so many cool bands and people and it's I can't say enough nice things about it.
The other night there was a raid. What is that? What that's called?
Oh yeah.
What is that?
That's one of the coolest things about Twitch. So when you're streaming and you have your audience that's watching you, and when you're done for the night or the day, a raid is when you take your audience and you move it to another stream. And that's another way of community building. And it also shares your audience with someone new that they may not know. And then usually that person will then reciprocate in some way later if their times line up. But it's a way of just expanding the community. And like the other night, we got raided by one of the biggest music acts on stream.
A couple streams.
Yeah, that's their name. A couple streams.
Yeah.
And,
or ACS,
yeah, and they rated us with like almost 800 people.
Yeah, so it's like we're just doing our thing, and we have like maybe close to 100 people, and then all of a sudden you have almost 1,000 people watching you. And it's a little nerve wracking at first, but we try not to think about it too much, I guess, and just keep going. Yeah.
And the great thing about that, not only is now are you sharing your audience with someone else and vice versa, but then the aggregation of the music channel, it's bumping you up, because if you just go browse the music channel, the first, it lists it by who has the most viewers. So, for that night, as you're climbing, you're going to get more random people that didn't even know you exist because the platform itself is growing all the time. So I'm sorry, this is really deep.
No, I love it.
Nerd,
No, it's amazing. So I want to talk a little bit about your process of writing original songs, because you do a lot of covers, but you have over like 20 originals. So how do you guys write those songs? How do you collaborate on them? What's the process?
We have 20 some originals we play on Twitch, but like our whole catalog is probably closer to like 60 or 70 songs. But we don't play all those on Twitch because some of them are just too hard to recreate. So there's 3 of us in the band, actually. One of the members doesn't play live with us anymore. They used to before Miranda joined. He goes by the name Chicken Burger Disco.
We even have an emote for him. He has like a chicken head.
And he does like our drums and bass for most of the songs. And he also does the visuals. So like all the projection stuff. So all 3 of us go about writing in a different way, and then it comes together as a collaboration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I usually like to start with lyrics because I'll have like more of a subject of a song that I want in mind that I want to just like get out there. But Tyson and Chicken Burger Disco start a little bit differently.
Yeah, I usually start with like an acoustic guitar and just kind of write like a chord progression and a vocal melody. And Chicken Burger Disco usually starts with drums and bass. So it's pretty interesting. And the best songs we have are when all 3 of those forces can join together on one song.
Is there a favorite original that you guys have written that maybe was really hard to write, but you ended up loving it?
Maybe Disconnect. I don't know. That's one that we kind of struggled with. And we did so many different versions of it. And then in the end, it was like we were overdoing it, and then we kind of took things away, and then we liked the end result.
Addition through subtraction, they say.
Yeah.
It's a funny thing because I think if you ask any songwriter, they will tell you that the best songs are the ones that wrote themselves, or that they didn't remember writing, or that they put the least amount of effort into. Yeah. So the songs where you have to work it to death usually end up being the ones that like,
or like frustration, tied to it,
And those are usually, when I said we have 60 some songs in our catalog, the 25 that we play are probably the ones that were the easiest to write, and the other 40 or whatever are the ones that were really hard to write, because then they become really hard to perform because they took a lot of forcing to have to happen.
So when you're performing for a stream versus performing for a live audience, there's a lot of differences, I'm sure, both technically and kind of energetically. So a lot of performers, they really get a lot of energy from being in front of a live group. So
nothing could ever replace that feeling. Like the last show we played live was actually a house party here locally, and just the energy of the crowd really got us pumped up. And we're in this small room in a basement, and people are like crowd surfing and moshing and stuff. And obviously you can't get that energy when we're live streaming, but it's just a different, like Tyson kind of mentioned it before with like the emotes and just.
Yeah, it becomes a weird. Yeah, I don't know. Hypnosis. I don't know why I keep using the word hypnosis, but you become hypnotized by it, and it does suck you in and make you feel like, the interaction of the people in the chat start to feel like people in front of you. It's very strange. I think the biggest difference for us, though, between our live performances and our Twitch streams are that, when we play live, our live set's usually anywhere from 35 to 45 minutes. So in that time, we'll usually play 10 to 12 songs, and,
with no pause between.
Yeah,
just
no
go,
pause,
go, go.
No chatting. Yeah. And like 10 of those songs will be originals, and then we'll usually do 1 or 2 covers
at the end.
And it's like a full adrenaline rush. And it's like literally at the end of that 45 minutes, we're like
drenched in sweat
and dead tired and just completely drained because of the adrenaline. But when we stream from anywhere from 3 to 5 hours, and we'll play 30 to 40 songs. Mm-hmm. And so it took us a while to kind of figure out how to control our adrenaline and control our energy to be able to pace ourselves for that time, so that we don't start off, insanely pumped up and then be dead by the end. So
and we do a lot of talking in between songs and chatting with the viewers and stuff. So it's super interactive and very different, obviously, than playing a live set where we have to jump on stage, set up our stuff as quickly as possible. And then as soon as we're done, we have to tear everything down. And then hopefully you have time to talk to a few people afterwards. It's all very rushed when you do the live shows.
I mean, to be quite frank, it sucks playing live because you take, okay, let's just take an average show. So let's say we're going to play, at a bar or a nightclub on a Saturday. So our set time probably won't be till 11 o'clock at night, but at 4 o'clock, in the evening, we're already starting to tear down our stuff, load it up, then we'll drive to the venue, have dinner,
get the merch ready,
check into a hotel. And then, then the doors open up at the venue, let's say at 8 o'clock. And then we have 3 hours to kill. We're just standing around for 3 hours. Then we have to rush to set up. You play for 45 minutes. You rush to tear down. Then you got to hang around till basically the bar closes till 2 a.m. And then you go back to your hotel or drive home. And during that time, you've spent almost 12 hours of your day to basically be on stage for 45 minutes.
Right.
And, it's expensive too. Like, if you have to take time off work to go to the show or
paying for the hotel and the gas and everything
and
else,
the food.
obviously.
Yeah. And so so our goal was always basically to break even and maybe make a little extra on merch. But like on Twitch, we don't have any of that. It's in our basement. We just walk down to our basement and for 4 hours we're playing and,
and then we're done. We just go back up.
And whether we make money that night on Twitch or not doesn't really matter to us because we made money by not having to spend money. The opportunity cost of playing live shows is so high now that I just can't imagine us doing it. I mean, we'll do it from time to time for friends or for fun events, but like our rate that we're going to charge for live shows has gone through the roof.
Because of all that.
Because of the opportunity cost.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not that we're making a bunch of money on Twitch, but we're saving a bunch of money.
And what is the revenue model on Twitch?
There's 3 basic revenue models on Twitch. There's actually probably 5, but I'm going to give you the 3 basic ones. So the number 1 revenue model on Twitch would be direct donations. And that happens outside of Twitch. So that can happen through like PayPal or Venmo or Patreon or whatever you want. But that's where you basically have a chat bot that keeps dropping a link and people can donate to you. We don't, we don't pimp that out too much because again, like we're just mostly doing this to like raise our profile, but that's the best way anyone can donate. The second way is what they call a subscription. So a viewer can subscribe to your channel and it's like $5 a month, I think. And basically what they get from subscribing is they get these custom emotes that we talked about that they can use. They get access to private events that you can do within Twitch. And there's some other benefits to being a subscriber.
They don't have to watch ads, I think.
Oh yeah, they don't have to watch the ads. It's ad free. And then as a streamer, you get, depending on if you're a partner or an affiliate, you get basically 50% of that and that money. So for every $5, you get $2.50 per month. And then the third way is what they call bits or cheers. And it's kind of like an in-Twitch currency. So people buy these bits and then each bit is worth a penny. So, people will cheer like 500 bits and that's like $5. And it's kind of like being at a bar and having like a piano man playing and you throw in, money in a tip jar.
Yeah.
Got it. So now when you're playing, Miranda, I noticed you have a very interesting instrument. So you've got your synth set up. Is it called a theremin?
Yeah.
What?
You got it right.
What the heck? So it's such a cool sound, but like, why a theremin and how did you learn to play it and what does it add?
Well, obviously we're both really influenced by sci-fi, like old sci-fi movies and just that sound, kind of spacey sound. And Tyson used to play the theremin in one of his early bands, so he kind of introduced me to it. And I don't know, I guess it turned out the theremin was invented 100 years ago this year. And it was originally invented as like an alarm system because basically the antenna that you see that I'm like flailing around my hand, that's the closer you bring it's the only instrument that you don't touch to play, which is pretty cool and kind of appropriate for the times right now. But the closer your hand is to the antenna, the higher the pitch, and the farther away your hand, the lower the pitch. And then there's a volume sort of loop on the side of it too, so that you can control, how loud and how quiet and in between notes. And we mostly, we just add it to songs as kind of like a textural extra synth and just for effect. And I don't know, I like to spaz out on it and play it. If you go to YouTube and look for people playing the theremin, there's people that play it probably the more like quote proper way, just more controlled and playing individual notes and all that. But I use it more as like an extra texture, I guess.
And I know you guys do a lot of recordings, or samples from like old sci-fi movies. And how do you guys decide when you're going to use a sample? What's your process there?
We were kind of working on our act, and we knew that, like, especially in New York, where the set times were so tight and you had such a limited time to start and stop. And with us using backing tracks, we had the advantage of like basically knowing exactly how long our set would be, because we basically would just build a playlist. And basically the samples were just to keep us from talking between songs.
Yeah. We were told we should not have too much banter. So just stick with our music and our look. But.
Yeah. And so basically, some of the older songs just kind of have ridiculous samples that have nothing to do with the music. They're kind of funny just to lighten the mood. Later songs, we've tried to pull in samples that somehow relate to the music in some way. And I mean,
that 1984 quote kind of.
Oh yeah. Before our we had the song called Overtime that like a lot of people like, and we have a quote from the audiobook version of 1984 that starts it, and I mean, in a perfect world, if we had all the time in the world and energy, we would use the samples to tell a story, to try to seam our show, or link our whole show together, but ain't nobody got time for that.
Okay, I was a teenager when new wave was a thing. I want to know what you think are the best and the worst new wave songs or albums.
Oh, that's tough.
For me, I like specifically, there's a certain era of new wave I like, and it's between the years 1977 and 1981. It was kind of the era when the guitar was still a heavy part of new wave, before it kind of went purely electronic. So some of my favorite records are like the first B-52s record, the first Devo record, Are We Not Men? And those first Cars albums are really great. I'm trying to think if I can't say I have a favorite, but I really think that new wave jumped the shark, in the mid to late 80s when it just got absurd in some way. And I don't know what I mean by that exactly, but they started to use a lot of computers for programming the drums, and basically a lot of the stuff started to sound plastic and not in a fantastic way. What about you, Miranda? I see what you're looking at.
Yeah, I think my favorite new wave artist is Gary Newman, and to what Tyson was saying, the reason why is because he mixes like real bass guitar and guitars with synths and some synth bass, and it's not just purely like everything synthesized drums, everything. So it has that kind of more rock element to it, I guess. Like a little more edgy. Yeah.
Gary Newman's the epitome of new wave. He is definitely
he's the king.
Yeah.
We think.
Yeah. Did you see there's a couple of videos on YouTube of him performing recently, and he still sounds amazing.
Yeah.
We saw him perform his album, The Pleasure Principle, a few years ago, cover to cover.
Yeah.
No.
That's probably the best new wave record. I mean, that's
and he put on such an amazing performance. It was mind blowing. Like that guy, we think he might be a vampire or something. He's never aged. Yeah.
It's kind of strange though, because there is kind of like different levels of new wave or whatever. Because to me, like Devo gets lumped in with new wave, but to me, Devo is its own thing.
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
It's like nothing else. It's just so weird and out there and, non-conformist. And then you have like the Cars, who basically took your standard, rock and roll formula and put synthesizers on it, and that's quite a difference. And then if you take the B-52s, then you've got a band that was basically trying to write songs for house parties, and they also kind of had some kind of weird doo-wop influence in there. And so it's hard to just lump everything together.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of people talk about like bands like Flock of Seagulls and Aha. At least in my opinion, that's sort of the beginning of the bad part of new wave. I think those hits are great songs, and I think those things are great. But I think that kind of opened the door for just something that was like so commercial and like not as interesting, I guess, is what some of those other folks were doing.
What is it about Devo that you think is so interesting? I'm fascinated by that.
They have a whole universe built around them and a whole philosophy.
Yeah.
It's not just the music.
It's a philosophy as much as it is a band. And I think their philosophy really resonated with me. I was like already writing songs similar in vein, sort of. Someone brought to my I knew of Whip It, of course, and I knew Girl You Want because those are like the big singles. But someone was like, this guy Ed, I remember, he's like, you need to listen to their lyrics. You need to hear what they're trying to say. And that just like blew my mind, because there was a whole philosophy behind what they were doing. And it was an art movement. It was and everything they predicted is sadly becoming very true. And maybe it's obvious if you look at the way humanity has trended, but they're all about the de-evolution of society and the entropy of man. And, like that movie Idiocracy is basically Devo's vision on screen. You know what I mean? That's
so, yeah. Okay. So,
sorry, that's kind of a downer.
No, I was like, yeah, thanks, Tyson. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. So, well, let's switch gears and say, what about performing, playing music, being on Twitch, whatever, what brings you joy?
It's hard to pinpoint. Everything about it. It's a way to connect with people that we never would have thought was possible. We have people that we talk to that are in Germany and Australia and South America. And it's something we just, that brings me joy, definitely. It's just that our music is actually reaching people and bringing them joy like that. That's what really makes me happy.
Yeah, I mean, the most like precious commodity in life is time. It's like the only thing you can't buy more of, and these people are they're giving us their most precious commodity and for hours on end, multiple times a week. And it's
overwhelming.
It's overwhelming. Like it literally almost makes me tear up sometimes when I think about like how long people watch us for and how much they like what we're doing. And it's amazing. So it becomes addictive and there's the adrenaline to it and it's scratching the itch of our creative side, and it's just, I don't know. It's overwhelming, to say the least. And we do not take it for granted in any way, shape, or form. And sometimes it really plagues our mind because while we're playing, as our numbers get bigger and we have more and more people in chat, we can't, if we were to try to keep up with what everyone's saying to us, we would never get to play a song. And so we try afterwards to even go back and make sure if we've missed something someone said that we'll talk about it in our Discord channel or bring it up next time because, we don't take any of it for granted. Not at all.
Yeah. Now, has this branched off into other interests that you want to maybe get into eventually?
So there's this sort of weird science to Twitch. I mean, your goal as a Twitch streamer is obviously to become as big as possible, but there's kind of a ladder you climb on Twitch and the sort of the thing you want to get to is what they call a partner. So basically when you start out, you're just like you're a basic streamer and then you can get to become what they call an affiliate. And when you become an affiliate, that's what unlocks the door for you to be able to like have people subscribe to you and basically start potentially making money on Twitch. And then as a partner, it opens up all sorts of other doors. But so we've been for the last couple months just really trying to make partners. So all we're doing on Twitch is our music stream. And we have so many more ideas that we want to do, but we know that like it will probably bring in less people, which will hurt your chance to make a partner. But once you've made a partner, you're kind of golden. Yeah. You're free to do whatever you want. And so, we have many ideas we want to bring to Twitch that have nothing to do with music, but are, creative. Like Miranda wants to do, she's done it once before, and they're basically Twitch craft where she shows, her seamstress skills and makes things on screen. And we want to do some stuff with animation and some weird kind of talk shows, just experimental things that we can't do yet. Music is like 1/3 of probably our creative output, but it's 100% of what you see right now on Twitch.
So is there anything that in this process of being on Twitch, of playing new wave music, whatever, is there anything that has been so surprising to you?
I guess the most surprising thing to me is just the range of like, I guess what we imagine the people that our music would reach out to and then what it actually is. Like there are so many people that have reached out to us and said like, this is the music I've been waiting for decades. Like exactly what you said, like they grew up, they were teenagers in the 80s when the kind of music we're playing was big, and they've been waiting for something, the new evolution of it at least. And that's what I guess we didn't really outright see ourselves as that, but now we see it and we're like, oh, okay, we're definitely filling this void that
the age range of our audience is incredible. Like
there's teenagers or younger kids who've never even heard of it.
There's like children, and then we know of people in their 60s that are like tuning in Twitch, never knew what Twitch was, but heard about us or knew of our existence, and now are on this platform, and like that is overwhelming in its own right, So I think that blew our mind. We just assumed most of our fans would be, in their mid-20s to maybe mid-30s, something like that. But to see this age range of people that enjoy us and then interact with each other sort of anonymously in our stream, like we kind of know stuff about them that they don't know about each other. So it's funny when we know someone that's young that's talking to someone that's older and we're having some kind of great conversation or debate in our chat while we're playing. And I'm just thinking, like, if you guys met each other in real life, you probably wouldn't even look at each other, let alone have this amazing conversation.
Yeah.
What would be the most frustrating thing for you?
Time, I think.
And just like when we stream and we, like as Tyson mentioned, we do for several hours, like we're pretty exhausted afterwards, and then we have to go, get up in the morning and go to, we both work from home, fortunately, so that worked out for us. But then we have to give it our all at our day jobs. And then so it's just like, we wish we had more time to just do everything we want to do and have time to rest and everything else. So
because we definitely need our day jobs to pay the bills and for health insurance and these things. So that's the most frustrating thing, is just the balancing act of making sure that we're making our day jobs happy and doing the best we can there, and then trying to find time to create new content and have energy to stay doing what we're doing on Twitch. In a perfect world, that's all we would do, is the creative part of it. But that's, in the United States of America in the year 2020, that's nearly impossible.
So if someone listening to this podcast was new to new wave, where would you suggest they start, besides your stream, of course?
Honestly, I would just go to like YouTube or Spotify and just type in new wave and just start with playlists people have already made.
Yes.
It's probably going to be your common greatest hits. You're probably going to have I Ran So Far Away and Rock Lobster and Whip It and Just What I Needed and Cars by Gary Newman and Video Killed the Radio Star. But I mean, that's where we all started. Why not start with the hits and then dig deeper? And people have some amazing playlists out there. And the coolest thing for us, actually, this like still blows my mind, is because all these people that were alive, or not alive, but were like teenagers during that time period, they're now suggesting us music that we didn't know exists, like deep cuts, like underground new wave bands. And some of them are just like blowing our minds, like, holy crap, this is excellent, and stuff that we would have never found otherwise. But yeah, start with the basics. They were hits because they were great. Not, some of those songs were no joke.
And if someone wanted to start, maybe not streaming on Twitch, but just getting to know Twitch, how would you suggest they start?
I think just kind of browsing in the main channel and just seeing what comes up. And then you can go down a whole wormhole and find people. But even people who are thinking about streaming on Twitch, we suggest that's the best thing to do too, is just watch other musicians on Twitch and just learn the whole, what would you say, the culture of Twitch, I guess. Just, you never know what you can find on there. It's just, you just have to take the time, I guess. And
that's the only downside right now of Twitch, of the music section in Twitch, is there's no way to aggregate by genre or things.
Right.
It's actually the best part and the worst part. So it's kind of bad, because you might think like, I want to go watch, a heavy metal band or whatever kind of music you're like.
You can't sort it by that.
You can't sort it by that. But like, it's opened our minds to so many styles of music and new musical acts, because a lot of people on there do covers or they play over YouTube videos. And so it like opens your mind to all this new music. The only advice we can give you is just to get on there and spend time. It takes time. If you watch something you don't like, there's 1,000 more people on there you can watch until you find what you're looking for.
Exactly.
And so is there kind of a holy grail song or band that you want to cover, but you haven't done so yet?
Probably Gary Newman, right?
Yeah, Gary Newman or the B-52s probably equally. So many people are like, can you guys just please cover the just please.
Yeah, I want to cover Private Idaho by the B-52s.
Yeah, that's a holy grail song for sure.
Yeah. And Cars is probably Gary Newman's most famous. I mean, we should probably do that at some point. But I would like to do too, figure out a way to put a new spin on Kraftwerk. Would be fun.
Or David Bowie. I don't know. It's hard to narrow down. There's so many.
Yeah, but right now, Private Idaho by the B-52s is probably the holy grail, because that would be the most representative of who we are, I think, and what we look like and what we do.
Hello? Are you there?
Guess what? They made Twitch partner. I'm excited to see what these ambassadors from the future are going to bring to us. You can find the Fantastic Plastics all over the internet, starting with thefantasticplastics.com and twitch.tv/fantasticplastics. I'll link to everything in the show notes, of course. I'll also include links to Miranda and Tyson's favorite nonprofits, as well as a rotating list of my own favorite nonprofits. Just a reminder that you can find the podcast on Instagram at LoveWhatYouLovePod, on Twitter at WhatYouLovePod, and the website is lovewhatyoulovepod.com. If you'd like to support the podcast, and I would be so grateful if you did, leaving a rating or review on Apple Podcasts, even if that's not where you listen, is a great way to do that. Or just spread the love and share about the podcast on social media. Thank you to everyone who has rated, reviewed, or socialed already. You're absolutely lovely. Zeke Rodriguez-Thomas at Mindjam Media provided amazing editing assistance. Thank you, Zeke, as always. You can find Zeke at mindjammedia.com. Also, huge thanks to Emily White for the episode transcripts, which are available to patrons at patreon.com/lovewhatyoulovepod. So, as always, be good to yourselves, be good to each other, and love the hell out of whatever it is that you love. You need it, and we need it. Thanks for listening. Let's hang out again soon.
There's some good in this world, Mr. Furl. And it's worth fighting for.